The Nissan 370Z first became available back in 2009. So what is a car that's been around for over a decade at this point like? Well, I've been driving this Nismo for the past week, and today we're going to talk about what it's like. It's actually not that rare for a sports car to run for quite a long period of time. They are lower production and they don't often get refreshed as quickly as the volume sellers. Think about the Lamborghini Gallardo. That was released in 2004 and ran all the way until 2014, a full decade. Yes, halfway through it got a mid-cycle refresh with a new engine, but that's still quite a long time for the Gallardo. Another car, the Nissan GTR, also released in 2009 and is still available for sale today. Luckily for the 370Z, a replacement has been announced. It's been previewed with the 400Z prototype. But right now, the top tier 370Z you can get is a Nismo, and that's what we're talking about today. Nismo is Nissan Motorsport, and it was founded back in 1984, and they do some legitimate serious racing. Think 24 Hours of Le Mans, Daytona, some GT series, and then they apply the Nismo name to road cars in a more sporty form. The Nissan GTR Nismo, obviously this 370Z Nismo. There was also a Juke Nismo, and the strangest one to me is a Nissan Sentra Nismo. But actually the coolest one, if you look up the Nismo Leaf RC, that thing actually looks really cool. But for this 370Z, in Nismo trim, you have a VQ37, naturally aspirated 3.7-liter V6. It makes 350 horsepower and 276 pound-feet of torque. 6-speed manual transmission is in this car. You can spend an extra $1,400 to get a 7-speed automatic, rear-wheel drive only, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, so it sits above those entry-level, really lightweight, low-powered Miata, BRZ type of vehicles, but not quite at the 400, 500 horsepower sports cars like some of the Camaros or maybe a Mustang Performance Pack Level 2. In terms of exterior styling, the Nismo gets a unique front fascia, restyled rear end with a diffuser for better aerodynamics too, dual exhaust tips. You get red accents all over the car that match the red O on the Nismo badges on the car too. 19-inch raised forged wheels exclusive to this car here. You also have bigger brakes behind those wheels with red painted calipers. Looks like there's only two colors available. It's a magnetic black pearl and then this pearl white tricoat, which actually looks quite nice, tied together with the red accents. Now again, this car has been around for a little bit. It had a mid-cycle refresh in terms of styling, and this is the most aggressive looking version of it. But this is going to be one of the last of the truly analog sports cars, by fact that it has been around for quite a while. But let's hop in it, drive it, talk about what it's like, some of the things I liked and disliked, and obviously the interior too. All right, inside the car now. Let's start off with some of the things that I like about the inside. These Recaro seats are actually pretty nice. They've got this nice red insert here, and then the Recaro and Nismo branding on them. Adjusting the seats is not nice. It's just weird, like rotary knobs and dials on the left side, and it's just actually not easy to do. It's easier to get out of the car and adjust it than sitting here trying to reach down to do that. In terms of adjustability, things that aren't good, the entire tachometer dash part moves with the steering wheel, but there's no telescoping, so I can't actually get the wheel to the ideal position for me with how I like to sit. The wheel has nice Alcantara leather, this nice red accenting too. And then the rest of it's very basic. Oh, one other thing that is nice. A lot of cargo space, actually. A lot of little storage things behind the seats and then the actual trunk back there. It doesn't look that big, but I made a Costco trip yesterday and I actually had a shocking amount of stuff, and I thought I was going to pile it in the passenger seat, but it all fit back there. So practicality is not terrible. In terms of things that aren't great, it feels dated, and I don't want to harp too much on it because it's not the fault of the car, but the infotainment is very, very basic. It actually took me like 5 minutes to get Bluetooth audio working. I got to connect my phone. I was trying to get it to work. It could just be complete user error on my end, and I could be an idiot, but that's just quite old. When you do put the backup camera on, you get an extra camera in the mirror. A little screen shows up there because I think some of the lower level 370Zs don't even get this little 7-inch touchscreen. The concerns with the infotainment on this car actually led me to think about something else, and pretty much how that interior technology really does date a car. When I got in this thing, I was like, ooh, that feels quite old. And just imagine in 10 years what a modern touchscreen system, and let's just say a new Mustang or even like an SUV or crossover is going to feel like. That's going to be what dates a car a lot. Running out the red line. So yeah, the interior, that is just it's not great, especially for a 2020. Luckily, they are going to be refreshing the entire interior. Look at the 400Z prototype interior. It looks much better. Other parts on the inside, I mean, you got some basic buttons, which is nice that not everything is controlled through a touchscreen and it just works. You click a button, rotate knobs and whatever. One thing that is interesting is this little sport mode transmission shifter pattern looking button. And the most important things it does is you get rev match downshifts. You got a little S in a center cluster above where it shows what gear you're currently in, and it does rev matching. So there, that was me. I did not have to heel toe. I did not have to do anything to match engine speeds, and it will do it automatically. The only other car I can think of that has active rev matching, I think, was the GT3. I don't remember driving anything else that also had active rev matching. That actually, without a single doubt, became my favorite feature in the 370Z Nismo. I actually like it a lot. Now, in terms of driving, they made this car quite a bit more stiff. It is a track focus version, so vibration dampening for the chassis structure, increased rigidity, and then the actual suspension itself is a lot more stiff to counter body roll. But the result of that is if you want to daily drive this car, it actually sometimes gets a little too uncomfortable. I mean, the roads in the Midwest, Illinois and Michigan are the same. They're bad. It looks like an earthquake came through and they just didn't bother fixing anything. So like, the bumps are pretty bad. They are almost a little too jarring. I know there was a chunk of Lake Cook Road where I think I hit like the resonant frequency of the suspension and the car was bouncing so bad at 45 miles an hour. I was like, I can't take this. This is terrible. So it's firm. But what that means is when you throw it around the roundabout corners, this would probably be a lot of fun on a track day or an autocross. It does handle pretty well. And then remember, by the fact that it's a little bit older, you have that analog feel to it. The steering is very direct. It's none of this new weird electronic steering with variable ratio assist. Just good old hydraulic steering. Has very nice weighting to it. The transmission, the shifting, you have to be very deliberate. You drive something like any Porsche manual, it's so smooth and slick. Everything just slides in very nicely. It's like guided in. This one you have to be very deliberate. You force it into the gate and then you know you're in gear. So it's a different experience. The clutch is nicely weighted too. Now this engine, VQ37, is a good motor. It makes good power. It sounds pretty good once you get above in the upper rev range, although I think I remember hearing something about Nissan using the speakers to pipe in some exhaust sound to boost it even on these cars, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I think you can turn it off by pulling a fuse or using a factory computer to get rid of that. But in terms of this engine and the power output, yes, the new VR30 is going to be a better engine. That thing makes a lot of power, and I'm actually really excited to see that in the 400Z, which I believe is what's coming. Woo. Well, there we go. 350 horsepower in a car that's about 3,500 pounds is not terrible, especially when it's naturally aspirated, no turbos in the way. And in terms of stopping, I mentioned the brakes earlier. They are larger brakes. I believe 14-inch 4-piston fronts and 13.8-inch 2-piston back. If those numbers are incorrect, don't yell at me. I think that's correct. Otherwise, it's not terrible to drive now, but full disclosure and full transparency, when I first got in the car the first day, I was like, it just feels old. And I was not a huge fan of it. Part of it could be the fact that I've become spoiled with a GT350R in my garage. I love that car. It's, in my opinion, one of the best driving cars to come out in the last many, many decades. I love that car. But over time, I actually talked to a friend. He's like, hey, reframe it. Think about this car as a slightly used, maybe a little bit older, not brand new, and then reevaluate it and find some things that you're going to like about it. And yeah, it's that analog feeling to it. And you absolutely need to get it with a manual, and you absolutely need to experience rev match downshifts, because it's really, really nice. Yes, you can do it yourself. You can practice heel toe, whatever. But when the car just matches it perfect for you, it just makes it so much more seamless. And it is actually really enjoyable too. Now, in terms of the value, the Nismo 370Z is not cheap, starting at around $45,000, almost $46,000. The automatic will cost even more. Don't bother, get the manual, because the rev match downshifts is fun, and manual sports cars are fun. They're dying. There's not many left. Get a manual sports car. for that kind of money, you're talking about like a Mustang GT Performance Pack, definitely like a Camaro SS. So it's like above a Miata or a BRZ. Obviously, it costs more, but makes a lot more power. But it's not quite to the level of like the top tier sports cars at the moment. So it's in this weird zone right now. I personally am really much looking forward to the 400Z as the replacement for this. But if you think about it, everybody now is just comparing how many gigahertz their processors are and how many inches of touchscreen they have and all the weird random like electronic assist this and adaptive that for their cars. This is back to the basics. I think over time, since they've ran this for so long, there will be a lot available for enthusiasts to buy. If you rewind a couple years, maybe just as I was graduating college, I probably would have been thrilled to drive one of these or own one of these because you get manual, nice, decently powerful V6 and some fun little things to play around with. It has the ingredients there. I won't blame the car for it being a little bit on the older side, and I'm lucky I gave it a little bit more time to reevaluate how it felt to me and kind of reset my expectations, drive it around, enjoyed driving a little bit harder, doing some pulls, and yeah, it actually started to be pretty fun. So it's a fun car, but in need of replacement, and it is happening. Random glitch, I don't know why the little pod in the middle there says 3:25 p.m. and the center infotainment says 3:27 p.m. Why does the car have two different times right next to each other? I don't really want to go in the infotainment to try to change that. But if you're looking at a 370Z, you can get a regular one, but the Nismo is a little bit sharper. If you want to do autocross, you want the better handling, some of the more hardware, absolutely get the Nismo. And be aware, though, it will be a little bit firmer in terms of ride quality. But overall, 370Z Nismo. This is what it was like to drive a sports car that's been out for over a decade at this point. Looking forward to my next week with another Nissan sports car, which I actually am quite excited for. And I will miss the rev match downshifts and the ability to turn that on and off at will when I go back to my Shelby, because that's pretty cool. You feel like you have to manhandle this car. You just slam it into the gears and going for it. This was not bad. That was my time with the Nissan 370Z Nismo. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for all the support, and we'll see you guys next time.